Well, joining me now, Democratic Congressman from Washington, Adam Smith. He, of course, the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, welcome back to the broadcast. Good to have you here. So if negotiations are going nowhere with Republican lawmakers, could Democrats try to make a deal directly with President Trump? I mean, how else can this shutdown end?
I think we should. I think, understanding the issue here, though, is important. The Republicans are refusing to negotiate, and Mike Johnson has completely shut down the United States House of Representatives. And to disagree with the senator there, I think it does pass the laugh test more than just a little bit to say the Republicans are trying to jam their budget down our throats. Healthcare is a critical issue right now. We don't have much leverage as Democrats. We really don't. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. Donald Trump is running roughshod over the laws of this country and the Constitution. But the one little piece of leverage we do have is they need our votes to continue to fund their budget. They need at least 7 Democrats in the Senate. So to say that we should just give that up and allow Donald Trump to keep running the government the way he is running it, ignore the health care crisis, and continue to put forward the radical budget that the Republicans passed in their budget reconciliation bill, and the Democrats should sign up for that, that just doesn't make any sense. And the Republican approach of, no, we're not going to negotiate, you have to accept what we say, is really unprecedented. We have never gone out of session in the House during shutdowns before. So I think if the Republicans were willing to negotiate, whether it's Johnson or Thune or President Trump, whoever, if they were simply willing to negotiate for our votes instead of saying, no, you just have to give them to us. We don't have to give them to them, certainly not on this budget.
So the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee addressed a pretty concerning consequence of the shutdown, a shutdown that he and other top Republicans are blaming on Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats. Listen to this, sir.
Another consequence that we're dealing with, we were just informed last night by the National Nuclear Security Administration, the group that handles and manages our nuclear stockpile, that the carryover funding they've been using is about to run out. They will have to lay off 80% of their employees. These are not employees that you want to go home.
No. Other defense workers and national security functions have also been impacted. Are lawmakers and the Trump administration taking these kinds of risks seriously?
I don't think they are. They don't seem to be. I mean, Donald Trump has been celebrating the shutdown from even before it happened. Look, I don't disagree, and I agree with Mike Rogers 100% that it's very dangerous to have NNSA employees off the job. I think the shutdown is devastating for this country. It absolutely is. But then why are Republicans seemingly so okay with it? They won't even talk to Democrats. As I said the other day, Trump will negotiate with Hamas, Putin, and North Korea, but he won't negotiate with Democrats over health care and the budget. And I don't think people fully understand what the so-called clean CR is. It's a continuing resolution, but it's a continuation of Trump's budget, which is terrible for 2 reasons. One, because their budget is devastating to health care in favor of more spending for ICE and DHS and massive tax cuts. But 2, don't forget that Donald Trump isn't obeying the law. They want us to vote to continue a budget when Trump says he can go ahead and spend the money however he wants anyway. He's shutting down programs, and long before the shutdown, he was doing this. He was blocking programs, freezing spending, targeting Democratic areas of the country. If we don't get something to say, no, we're going to change the law so that Trump can't do that anymore, we'd just be voting to continue to give Trump the power that he has abused to date. So let's at least have a conversation about it. Let's get Congress back in session. Mike Johnson has effectively shut down the United States House of Representatives in favor of a, just blank check executive power for Donald Trump. We have to speak out against that. I mean, I agree that healthcare is the most important thing. I think democracy is pretty darn important, too.
Yeah.
And that is also what is at stake in this shutdown fight.
I am really glad that you outlined the CR and had put that explanation for our viewers. I do want to ask you about what happened earlier today. 9 days after the Trump brokered ceasefire, Israel has launched airstrikes on southern Gaza after accusing Hamas of firing toward Israeli troops. Hamas is claiming that Israel is, quote, fabricating a weak pretext to justify its crimes. All of this, does it dim your hopes for lasting peace?
It does. And look, and I was really not happy with the coverage, a week plus ago when Donald Trump brokered this deal. I was on, I think it was News Nation, when they were talking about this is just unprecedented. This is a miracle. Can you believe what Donald Trump has accomplished? Nobody saw this coming. It's not to use a football analogy, but it's like the guys who celebrate on the 5-yard line and drop the football before they get in the end zone. Okay. What always worried me about this is Donald Trump's attention span. He seems very focused on making sure that he gets praise and preferably a Nobel Peace Prize. Is he focused on what's actually necessary to bring peace to the Middle East? And what's actually necessary to do that is to make sure that Israel and all the Arab countries work with Palestinians to find an alternative to Hamas, that they actually follow through on that. And if it's just a brief ceasefire, we've had those before. Joe Biden negotiated 2 of them. No one gave him a Nobel Peace Prize. The actual work that's going to be involved in getting to a lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians, the role that Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Egypt and Jordan must play in making that happen, that is going to require sustained diplomacy and sustained pressure from the Trump administration. Does he want to do that? Or does he just want to start his touchdown dance and say, look at how great I am? Which, by the way, is his thing, as we've seen over and over again. But it doesn't deliver results. So, yes, I am very, very worried about whether or not this peace is going to be achieved. I don't think you can say if this peace is going to hold because it hasn't even set up yet. Is it going to be able to be achieved? I see a path, but it's going to take a lot of work, and the U.S. and Donald Trump are going to have to be involved in a sustained way.
Right. Going to take commitment for sure. Let me ask you about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who announced this morning the U.S. has struck a 7th alleged drug smuggling ship in the Caribbean Sea, killing 3 passengers that he referred to as terrorists. So Speaker Johnson said this morning he believes in peace through strength. Take out 1 boat full of fentanyl, you save hundreds of thousands of American lives. Do you agree, Congressman? I mean, first of all, is this legal? Has Congress been shown any proof that these boats are cartels running drugs to the U.S.? Because the question is, why repatriate those 2 recent survivors from a strike instead of bringing them to the U.S. for prosecution?
Yeah, very quickly. No, it's clearly not legal. There is no imminent threat to the U.S. These are extrajudicial killings, which are illegal, number one. Number two, Mike Johnson's comment just about makes my head explode. No fentanyl comes out of Venezuela. Okay, this shows how the Republicans have no idea what's going on here. Okay, what Donald Trump is doing is he's basically waging a war against Venezuela because he doesn't like Maduro. Bottom line. All right. Fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. The precursors come from China. It's made in Mexico, a whole bunch of other things. If that was the focus, then the focus should be elsewhere. So this is incredibly troubling. The president of the United States has basically said, I can use the U.S. military to kill whoever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, and I'll just make up why. Republicans, anyone who cares about America first, about limited government, should be concerned about this. And then the way they're just so casually they're part of a narco-terrorist group. They've been designated as blood. That's not a thing, okay? And I worked a lot when we were taking on ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And when strikes were done against them, A, we had congressional authorization. B, they had a very detailed explanation of who they hit, who that person was, what organizations they were connected to, and why. This is just being made up out of thin air to blow boats out of the water off the coast of Venezuela. And then the president announces that we've got a CIA covert operation in Venezuela. Well, it ain't covert if you're saying it in the middle of a press conference, you moron. So what we're seeing here is Donald Trump just completely unleashed, and the Republican Party and Mike Johnson and all these people doing what they have done day in and day out, which is we are not going to take our job seriously. Whatever Trump does, we're going to defend it. Doesn't matter how stupid we sound. We can start talking about fentanyl in Venezuela and whatever. It doesn't matter. We are simply going to bow down to Donald Trump and let him violate whatever law he wants to violate and then just make up excuses for it. We're starting a war with Venezuela, and everybody ought to be concerned about that.
All right. I'm so glad you take your job very seriously and come on this broadcast often. Thank you so much. You do. You do a great job with it, too. Thanks so much.